This is Civics, Chapter 4, Section 1, the Bill of Rights. In this section, we are going to be discussing the First Amendment. So, remember, the Anti-Federalists did not like the Constitution when it was originally written, largely because it had no Bill of Rights, which is the list of specific rights of citizens in the country. So, they went back, the framers of the Constitution, and they created the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, which is otherwise known as the Bill of Rights. So amendment is a new article that you add to the Constitution, or it could be a change to the Constitution. So the first 10 changes or additions to the Constitution are called the Bill of Rights. So Bill of Rights, first 10 amendments, same thing. So here is their exact wording of all 10 amendments, but we're going to break it down into more understandable language. So what the first 10 amendments do was to protect the basic freedoms of American citizens. But the meaning application of these specific rights have kind of changed over time. It's been 230 years since they were written. Times have changed, interpretations have changed, and that's why it's up to the judicial courts, specifically the Supreme Court. This is the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C., and it is their job to interpret these bills of rights and pretty much everything with the Constitution. So as we go through the amendments, you'll see how some of the wording can be interpreted in different ways. So this is just a good representation of what each amendment does, but we're just going to focus today on the freedom of speech, religion, and press today, the First Amendment. So the Bill of Rights, though, addressed several major issues that Americans had: individual civil liberties, the protection against the government, protection of those accused of a crime, state sovereignty, which is the states being able to hold control over lawmaking in some things, but the central government can't control them, and that all states are equal as other states. So this is kind of what the Bill of Rights do. But like I said, we're just focusing on the First Amendment today. And so what the First Amendment does is protect individual civil liberties. And the First Amendment really specifically guarantees 5 of the great civil liberties. The freedom of religion is the first one. All American citizens can practice the religion of their choice, or they don't have to practice any religion. So if you remember in a couple, probably last chapter, I believe, that the colonists came to America because, or most of them did, because they were seeking religious freedom. The Pilgrims came over because they were seeking religious freedom. They didn't like the Church of England. They were looking for their own place to practice their own religion, their own way. And so it was really important to the framers of the Constitution that they put that in there, that Americans can practice whatever religion they choose, or they don't have to practice it at all. The government cannot force them either way. There are some stipulations to the freedom of religion, though. A religion cannot threaten the health, safety of the community. It can be regulated. Government can step in and regulate religion in that regard. Example is if the religion has animal or human sacrifices, obviously that would be a banned religion in the United States. That would be in it because it pretty much breaks the law. Also, the freedom of religion specifically says that there's a separation of church and state. The government cannot favor one religion over another. Like they cannot give favor or tax breaks to Buddhists, but not to Christians. So they can't favor one religion over the other. Also, there is no official religion of the United States. Like I said previously, there is a Church of England, or like a lot of Middle Eastern countries, like they are Islamic countries. The United States has no official religion. As you can see, so this says coexist, and it has all the different signs of, Islam. That's a peace symbol. The Judaism, Christianity. So it's kind of a cool um, uh, way that like how Americans, all the religions are in one space. And also, public schools cannot promote any religious teachings or swayed. We can talk about religions in public schools, but we cannot uh, say any kind of certain prayers in public schools, like say a Catholic school would do. All right, the next freedom in the First Amendment is the freedom of speech. Americans have the right to speak and write freely, but freedom of speech is not unlimited. Not all speech is protected by the Constitution. Some speech that represents clear and present danger is not allowed, like yelling bomb on a plane. It is totally illegal if there is no bomb. So if you do yell a bomb on a plane, there better be an actual bomb on the plane, or else you are going to be arrested and most likely thrown in jail. You can also not shout fire in a crowded theater without a threat of a fire. So this just is protecting. If your speech is endangering the well-being of people around you, then that is illegal. So you can't just say whatever you want. Other limits to freedom of speech is obscenity. So that is not protected by the freedom of speech. The Supreme Court ruled that in 1973. And something that is considered obscene, it is considered obscene if it follows one of these three standards. If the speech is prurient in nature, uh, without any scientific, political, or educational or social value, it is considered obscene, or violates the local community standards. Now, each community develops their own standards to determine what is obscene. So, if to give an example, you like a wealthy neighborhood, and someone spray paints, a swear word on their house, that would be considered obscene, and they would have to remove it. That is not their freedom to do that. So some communities are more forgiving than others. And it is not common today for a Supreme Court to receive a case about obscenity, just because with media and everything, uh, obscenities have really gone to extreme. Like it really has to be extreme to be considered obscene. Also, with the freedom of speech, there is no defamation of character, which is the trying to injure someone's reputation with no fact behind it. Libel is the injuring of someone's reputation in the community through written words that are false. It could be on paper or electronically. Uh, Obviously, when the Constitution was created, they were more worried about the written on paper and like newspapers and whatnot. But now we have all kind of technology, Twitter, Facebook, anything like that. So that would be all fall under libel. And then slander is injuring someone's reputation through spoken words, spreading lies through gossip about an individual that has no truth or rumor. Obviously, if you make claims about some negative claims about someone and you have information to back it up, then it would be not be considered libel or slander. So this is a good example. He's kind of this chef here. He's just kind of telling people, oh, they got rats over there, but but he has no proof. He's just kind of spreading rumors. That would be slander. Yeah, he's just doing it so he can drum up more business for himself. So there's limits of freedom of speech. Americans do not have the freedom of speech, um, but there are Americans do have the freedom of speech legally, but Americans are not free from the consequences of free speech, such as an employer can fire you if you say something on Twitter, Facebook, or um, make a YouTube video that is not adherent to that company's um, beliefs. Um, Negatively tweeting about your customers on social media, like, oh, that customer, or complaining about your boss on social media, like, you can get fired. Like, you're not going to be thrown in jail, but you can get fired for saying unkind things on social media. So that's some of the consequences of free speech, but it is not a punishment directly by the government. Also, there's freedom of the press. Americans are allowed to criticize the government in any type of media, newspapers, television, social media. I mean, there's countless, like every president, U.S. president, there's countless cartoons, unkind words being said about them. Um, that's just part of American politics, is that the citizens can criticize you. But many countries do not allow this. China deletes any media that criticizes their government, and heavily regulates, the internet for all the Chinese people. They can't search some things. They really have them under their thumb, and you can't speak out against the government or you're going to get arrested. Now, the founding fathers believed that it was very important that the people were able to criticize the government because it's the government's purpose to listen and serve the people. So the people do not like something, then the government has to listen to them. So, for the press to be able to get their word out, that's the way that we have freedom in the United States. That the government just doesn't do whatever they want; they have to listen to the people. Now, freedom of the press does allow citizens to hear different opinions. For example, Fox News, that's a conservative Republican point of view. They're going to give it from their side. Now, CNN has a more liberal point of view. Um, what I mean by this is that if you listen to one channel after the presidential debate, Fox News might say that Trump won the debate, but CNN might say that Biden won the debate. So it's really up to an informed citizen to make clear choices and believe what they want to believe in the United States. So as part of that duty of a citizen, like we talked about at the beginning of the year, is being an informed citizen to make the correct choices when you go to vote. But the United States has many different opinions. A lot of countries just have one opinion, and it's really, a good historian checks multiple sources before believing anything. So it's good that the United States has multiple news sources so we can get it right. The press and any other forms of media do adhere to these limits. Um, the press can commit some libel sometimes, false reports, but we call it fake news. President Trump calls it fake news. They, just false reports with little claim. But the government has a difficult time regulating these false news reports because the media just quickly says that they had a mishap in their news, and it happens. So that kind of gets glossed over. But a group of Americans but there's one last part of the First Amendment, and that's the freedom of assembly. A group of Americans may meet together or assemble together as long as they do it peacefully. England, this is kind of the reason why the framers of the Constitution put this in there is because England made it illegal for the colonists to assemble in fear of the colonists revolting. Well, the colonists met in secret anyways, and the rest is history. Obviously, the colonists, started a revolution and won, but the framers didn't want this new country to have people not being allowed to assemble and to get together and talk about how to make the government better. Americans can come together and protest all kind of causes as long as the protest isn't breaking any laws. A peaceful protest. Now, if a protest turns violent and people start, um, you know, throwing things and being, disruptive to the community, then it is no longer protected by the First Amendment. And also, we have Americans' right to petition or protest the government's decisions. Citizens can complain about the government with no fear and without punishment. So, like Obama, this is in front of the White House. Every day there's people in front of the White House protesting something, having a petition. So, this one says Obama stopped the pipeline, and that is totally their right. And they're being peaceful, and they're not starting any violent riots or anything like that. And that is totally allowed by the United States. All right, that concludes